ever thought, what are the realities of working in Government of India? Then hi, welcome to my channel. If you're looking to work with Government of India in a lateral advisor role, look no further because this video is going to be a must watch for you end to end to understand what are the motivations, what are the realities, what are certain myths, and how do you in fact make a career in Government of India. And watch till the end if you wanted to know what kind of salary was I drawing as a lateral advisor in Government of India and what kind of projects was I working on and how can you also make a career in actually Government of India as well. And of course, if you're new to my channel, my name is Shatakshi. Whenever I'm on a chai break, this is Spice Tea. I make absolutely free educational content for all of you around public policy, around making career in management consulting and product management, and of course around MBA as well. If you're looking to do your postgraduate program or your next degree after your undergraduate. With that, let's get started. I am going to be actually dividing this entire video into 3 parts. First and foremost, I am going to be helping you understand what was my motivation to actually work as a lateral advisor in Government of India, what kind of journey was I going through, what kind of emotions was I going through when I decided to actually move from private sector to Government of India. Then the next section is 8 realities of working in Government of India, including my salary as well. And last section is about certain illustrative examples which can actually help you make a career and how can you actually make a career in Government of India as well. With that, let's get started. So the first section is, why did I really make a career in government? So if I were to be very candid, I was 24 when I actually started having emotions of building a career in impact space and in social impact space, just taking a little bit of steps behind that. If you're new to my channel, I completed my undergraduate from St. Stephen's College. I graduated in 2013 and right off the bat, my first job after college was in management consulting in a boutique management consulting firm. I worked there for a year and then I moved in corporate strategy in a leading startup in India as well. And after working in that startup for 2 years, I started questioning about my life's purpose, about my career's purpose. And that's when I started thinking, I just do not want to have a career where I make myself rich. I genuinely wanted to build a career at the intersection of decent wealth, a lot of learning, and most importantly, high impact. And that is when I had an offer already from a social impact development consulting firm. But as luck would have it, my placement cell of my alma mater, St. Stephen's College, they reached out to certain alumni who had graduated in the last 5 years, and I really got lucky. I saw the email on time. I applied, was really fortunate to get the shortlist, went through 3 rounds. 2 of them were actually case interview round and the last one was personal fit round. And that is how I actually got my first job in Government of India in the Ministry of Commerce role. And that is where I got a chance to work with leading IAS officers, the former chairman of McKinsey & Company, so on and so forth. So that's the first section. Why did I decide to actually make my career in Government of India in my mid-20s? With that, let's move towards the 5, 6, 7, 8 sections that can help you understand the reality of work in government. So the first section is about officers. What kind of people do you rub your shoulders against? What kind of people are you going to be surrounding? So on a daily basis, I was very often working with joint secretaries, senior additional secretaries and secretary as well. They are all IAS rank holders. In fact, my client from Ministry of Commerce, I was a lateral advisor for a long period of time, was Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances. In fact, the lady with whom I worked for long 2 years, she's the current Chief Secretary of Government of India. She's the iron lady for me. She was everything good that could happen for Government of India and IAS officers. And I had a great time learning leadership from her, just creating impact with her as well. Having said this, I was often spending time with the non-IAS officers as well, deputy secretary, under secretary, so on and so forth, just moving the files, making sure whatever strategies we were building, those processes were also getting formulated at their level. So that's section number 1. What kind of people do you rub your shoulders against? The second one is meetings. This was one sharp difference that I realized having worked with private sector and now working in government. I realized that not all meetings were really very fruitful. Not all meetings had clear agendas. Not all meetings had clear next steps. But of course, it really depends who is chairing the meeting. Like I said, this lady who was the additional secretary back then, she was very clear that at the end of every meeting, there were clear next steps, there were clear owners, there were clear deadlines. But if you would find that many a times, meetings that were below the level of IS officers that were taking place. Clear agendas were not defined. You were not sure why you being invited to that meeting. You are not sure what is the end outcome of that meeting as well. And that's a little stark distinction I felt overall in Government of India versus private sector. That's not to paint with a broad brush. There were definitely good meetings where secretaries and senior IS officers had a lot of clear vision what they wanted to get into the meeting in and what they wanted to get out of it with. So that's the second section in terms of reality of work in Government of India. The third one is grey hair matters. That's very interesting because I'm someone who's worked with BCG and a lot of private sector and think tank organizations like Tony Blair Institute for Global Change, etc. And what I realized is in private sector, at least in the rooms that I have been surrounded with, that grey hair is not the only thing that matters. What matters is meritocracy. What matters is data, what matters is innovation, what matters is best practices, what matters is are you giving a strong argument. However, in government, I many a times notice that it's not that these things don't win in government, they do. And that's what was the value addition that we as young professionals and lateral advisors were bringing in Government of India. However, in government, I many a times notice that decisions were being taken just because the senior most official was actually talking about it without giving a rationale or without sharing what was his or her reasoning behind it. So in government, a little more than private, I realized that grey hair matters more. So that's the third reality that I witnessed personally in my experiences of working with the Indian government. The fourth one, respect and culture. As much as I would love to respect everyone around, I felt a sharp distinction of this culture of calling people as sir and ma'am. In private sector, my bosses were 20 years senior to me or many times 40 years senior to me. I would just call them by their first name, Adil, Ankur, etc. However, in government, you were supposed to call someone from an undersecretary to a secretary just sir or ma'am. While I respect them, I personally had a lot of dissonance with that culture. Why? That why is most important, because the moment you start calling someone sir as ma'am, that's the moment you put someone at a pedestal, and that is the moment then innovation stops. You have inhibitions before sharing your ideas, you have innovations before sharing new opinions, and that to my mind was the harsh reality of working in government, because you were just supposed to just call people sir and ma'am, and I thought that that's just very colonial way of working in 21st century in Indian government. I felt that things could have been more lateral, things could have been much more open, and I genuinely see the new Prime Minister's regime, not new Prime Minister anymore, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's regime having a lot of lateral advisors, bringing in a lot of private sector experts, and that is actually infusing a lot of innovation and privatization to the government machinery. So that's my fourth reality of working in government. The fifth reality, do you really work 9 to 5? I work with the senior most official and junior most official, and I've realized that if there is a mission mode project, if there is criticality like in private sector, they also actually do not just curtail themselves to 9 to 5. They have actually spent hours beyond 5 as well. In fact, most of the projects that were coming in were actually having mandate of the Prime Minister's office. That meant that there was certain level of sincerity and certain level of seriousness to them, that you just could not afford to put 9 to 5 and imagine that everything is going to become comfortable in the world. They took their job seriously. They understood that at a national level, where does India stand? Today, we are having a seat on the table very strongly at WTO, United Nations and World Economic Forum. That's because we are holding the economy strong, and a lot of government officials of course need to be credited for that. So very much you do not just put 9 to 5 in Government of India, you put in the extra hours if there is a need for it. With that, we move towards the sixth section, which is skill building. So in government, I realized that a little less than private, a focus on relevant skills was being put for the IS officers and the non-IS officers as well. Government is coming up with a lot of schemes to actually upskill the young generation of India to reduce unemployment and to reduce underemployment. And a certain section of the focus of those skill building program is their own officers as well. But I genuinely felt after working with government that the relevant skill set was not being taught to them, and hence people like us were being invited. Had they been sufficient in their skill set when it comes to future skills like emerging technologies, data, benchmarking information, and thinking from a holistic point of view, then perhaps lateral advisors would have become redundant. So it's one thing that I felt that government could have put more focus on, and I'm very sure in the days to come they are to focus more on this aspect. which brings us towards the second last section, which is around work projects. What kind of problems was I solving? What kind of strategic projects was I solving? So if I were to give two examples, in fact, those two projects I spent a larger amount of time for my 2 years. The first one was digitization of the paperwork in Government of India. It sounds like a very mundane project, but it's one project that I'm really, really proud of, because it was started in early 2000 by NIC, and then a bunch of lateral advisors were like us. In fact, I was promoted to become a project manager of that entire team, right from setting processes, right from sharing best practices, right from setting actually monitoring and outcome practices. In fact, there was a time where we were rank ordering central department units on the number of percentage file digitized, and we were submitting it to Cabinet Secretariat, which is the highest administrative office in this country. And that project gave me a lot of kick, because we were able to, at least back in 2018, digitize more than 34 central ministries, a number or an impact that never someone would have done. And in fact, we saved paper worth the land area of Parliament, which in itself is a pretty good done deal, not just in terms of saving the paper, but also enhancing good governance of our government. The next project that I was actually co-leading was around good governance initiative of our Honorable Prime Minister. Not sure how many of you know, the government has a portal for submitting grievances to the Prime Minister. It's called CP Gram. After that, the grievances are departmentalized and then forwarded to either state governments or relevant department. But what no one was actually looking at, for example, if you pick up the telecom ministry, why does telecom ministry get thousands of complaints? What are the 5 thematic reasons because of which telecom ministry would get grievances? What are the root cause behind those 5 themes? What could be strategic initiatives so that you reduce or remove the entire reason from the root cause level? That was another project where I spent a large substantial amount of time. I was also involved in enhancing curriculum of the IS officers, training in Labasana as well. So a lot of interesting projects, from skill building to good governance, etc. Which brings me towards the last section of this video around the salary and the perks and the benefits. So I joined this role at an associate level, and my starting salary was 45,000 per month, and it was a contractual role. It got extended as much as I would like to be because of my good performance. After 9 months, from what I recall, my salary was revised to 60,000 per month, and then I was promoted, and hence my salary looked like somewhere around 80,000 per month. I genuinely believe for a pre-MBA with 3 to 4 years of experience, this was good money. Frankly, for the kind of experience and exposure I was also getting. Of course, this number could really differ from state government to department, so on and so forth, to plus minus 30%. Of course, in today's 2023, the salary that I quoted of 80,000 per month at a project manager level is of 2018, so it could be inflation adjusted right now as well. So those are the 8 realities of working Government of India as a lateral advisor. And right now, if I move towards the last section, which is about the opportunity. So somewhere on my screen, we will put up a screenshot of illustrative examples through which you can actually also make a career or get an entry into Government of India. I will not be surprised if you also go through case round of interview, because it allows someone to check about your problem solving skill. And last but not the least, if you are struggling to build a career yourself in Government of India, feel free to check out Impact Fellowship Program at globalgovernance-initiative.org, which is my own venture, where we actually run a personalized mentorship through McKinsey, BCG, Dalberg Mentors. We also actually have employment partnership with a few of the state governments and, of course, think tanks in India outside. And of course, you surround yourself in a very purposeful and talented community. That's my chai break with all of you. I hope you found a lot of exhaustive information in this video around the realities of working with Indian government. Those are my experiences. They could differ from person to person, but my objective is to give back as much as absolutely free of cost available on my YouTube channel, and I really hope it was fruitful for all of you. With that, I bid you goodbye and ciao with that chai tea, and I'll see you very much again. Ciao. Bye.